Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is very specific. We're diving into the community chatter around the brand new city builder, Anno 117.
Which just dropped on November 13th.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, when a new game in a franchise this beloved lands, the feedback is always, well, it's explosive.
Oh, for sure. And we've got a mountain of sources, mostly from those very early, very passionate player discussions.
So we need to figure out the verdict. Is this game really a masterpiece, the pinnacle of the genre? Or are there some pretty serious technical problems maybe getting in the way?
It really is the perfect snapshot of a modern game launch, because that initial feeling isn't just positive, it's like ecstatic.
Ecstatic is putting it mildly.
Right. You have players with thousands of hours in the old games saying, this is the best Anno ever made.
I saw one post from a player who's been gaming since the 70s calling it the pinnacle of this genre. The word masterpiece is just everywhere. You can feel the relief.
And that sets a really high bar, almost a dangerous one, right out of the gate. But what's backing up that hype, I think, is just how addictive the game is. The classic time sink.
Oh, absolutely. It's that time dilation thing. It's become a running joke.
Where you think you've been playing for 15 minutes.
And the game pops up that 2-hour warning. I saw so many people saying that. One person even joked, it proves Einstein's theory of relativity.
That's the ultimate compliment for a city builder, isn't it? It
Yeah.
just means that core loop is, well, it's basically flawless.
You're so locked into your supply chains and your city grid that you forget about time completely. You're lost in it.
It's that feeling of being busy, of constantly optimizing. And it's a huge signal that the developers got the fundamentals really, really right.
So let's unpack that. Why is it the pinnacle and not just, another really good sequel to Anno 1800?
Yeah.
What's making veterans say 117 is actually better?
Well, it seems to come down to restraint.
Which is so hard to do in a big franchise.
It is. I saw one user put it perfectly. They said the game is a success because the developers decided not to reinvent the wheel.
The UI, the progression, it all feels familiar.
Exactly. And that's so different from the pressure you see on other big franchises like, say, Civilization or Pokemon, where they get criticized for innovating too much and losing their identity.
Right. If you already have something that's a 9.5 out of 10, the hardest part is knowing what to leave alone.
And that's what they seem to have nailed. People are saying that at first it feels too similar, but then you realize it's different in all the right ways.
It kept just about everything I love.
And the new stuff adds flavor. Like the new naval mechanics, being able to land troops and bring them home for these glorious triumphs.
That's a great example. It adds story and immersion without messing with the core economic engine.
Okay, but that brings us to the first major point of tension, and it's a big one. The single most requested feature is stamps.
The return of stamps. For anyone who doesn't know, these are basically blueprints, right?
Right.
Predefined layouts for hyper-efficient housing blocks or production chains.
Yeah, they're the tool for the power gamer, the efficiency expert, and they're gone.
And their absence is causing a lot of headaches.
Yeah.
But it's not just a random decision. It's directly tied to the game's biggest new feature.
The diagonal building mode.
Which looks great, feels intuitive, but apparently it's an engineering nightmare.
It is. The community actually dug up developer posts on this. The underlying geometry is just incredibly complex, and that's why stamps are so hard to implement now.
It's not a simple fix. We're talking about tiny details. Like the buildings are slightly smaller, the roads are wider, the connection points between buildings and services are all different.
Right. The old grid math that stamps relied on is completely broken. The devs apparently wrote at least 2 lengthy posts just trying to explain the complexity.
So you can't just slap the old system on top of this new one.
You'd probably break the game. So this creates this kind of philosophical split in the player base.
On one side, you have the stamp user who wants maximum efficiency. They see the game as a puzzle to be solved perfectly.
And on the other side, you have the player who actually said, I personally love to be a lousy, inefficient player.
They love the new aesthetic freedom, the organic look of the diagonal streets. They're the artists, not the spreadsheet managers.
So it seems like a very conscious trade-off. They chose aesthetics and organic design over the click-button efficiency of the stamps.
It's a trade-off between the beauty of the city and the speed you can build it.
Which is a whole different way of playing. And speaking of shifts in philosophy, we have to talk about population.
Yes, the unrest. The initial outcry was that unrest gets way overtuned as your city grows.
Making you build amphitheaters way earlier than you'd expect.
It sounds like a simple balancing issue, But the sources are saying it's actually a huge conceptual change that veterans just didn't see coming.
They were treating their Tier 1 population, their simple folk, the same way they did in Anno 1800.
As basically mindless worker bees. Just give them food and a roof and they're happy to work.
But that's not how it works in 117 at all.
No. They fully leaned into the Roman idea of panem et circenses.
Bread and circuses.
Exactly. Just feeding your people isn't enough anymore. Once you grow from a village to a town, they need infrastructure. They need entertainment.
And here's the kicker. It's because those simple folk are no longer just passive workers. They have vital civic roles now.
They row your triremes, they man your fire stations and watchtowers. They are your army.
So if you just pack them into houses without building the forums and the entertainment to support them, your city immediately becomes unstable. You get revolts.
It forces you to be a real governor, not just a factory foreman. You have to think about civic responsibility right from the start.
It totally changes the early game math.
Yeah.
You can't just rush production anymore. You have to balance it with stability. It's a much deeper system.
And while the mechanics are deeper, there is this related aesthetic critique, and it's summed up by this wonderful German term.
The Wusel factor.
The Wusel factor. I love it.
It's that feeling of bustling activity, right? The sense that your city is alive.
And players are saying it's missing. The logistics are working in the background, resources are moving, but you don't see it enough.
It feels like it's all happening on a quantum realm level.
Yeah. There aren't enough little people or carts or stuff happening on the streets.
And with the new diagonal building, you get all these weird empty spaces and people are asking for more ornaments to fill them, to make the city feel lived in.
It's that classic genre problem. The numbers can be perfect, but if you don't get that visual feedback, the immersion, the Wusel factor, it suffers.
You need to see the result of your hard work in the chaos of the streets, not just on a spreadsheet.
Okay, so we've got this brilliant core, these smart innovations, these deep conceptual shifts, but we have to pivot to the harsh reality.
Because the launch has been really marred by some game-breaking technical problems.
The core might be a 9.5 out of 10, but the packaging is flawed. The worst one seems to be this Ubisoft Connect offline patron gods bug.
It sounds complicated, but it's brutally simple.
What's happening?
If you load your save game while the Ubisoft client isn't perfectly synced, or you lose connection for a second, the game permanently deletes your starting patron gods from that save.
And those are your essential starting bonuses.
Your essential bonuses, so it effectively bricks your save. People are losing 10+ hours of progress.
Oh, that's just unacceptable for a game like this. 10 hours is a huge investment. That's a trust breaker.
It is. And it's not the only thing. There's also a really irritating multiplayer desync issue making co-op a pain. These stability problems are just killing the initial hype for some people.
And beyond the bugs, there are critiques of the campaign itself.
It's failing on two fronts, really.
It's a lousy job as a tutorial for new players.
And it does a terrible job explaining all those big conceptual changes like the population system to the veterans. So they just learn by failing, which is frustrating.
Then you have the smaller polish issues, the UI being messed up maybe because it was designed for consoles.
And the immersion-breaking thing of seeing too many identical islands on the map.
So we have this dual reality. The fundamental creative core is, by all accounts, stellar. That's where the masterpiece label is coming from.
But the whole supporting structure, the technical stability, the tutorial, it's actively undermining that brilliance.
Which brings us back to that question the community is debating. What is a masterpiece? Does it have to be flawless?
Or can it just be a work of outstanding artistry, skill, or workmanship, even if it has a few smudges on it that, you expect will get patched out?
And that leads right into our final thought. The game is being praised for knowing what not to change, for protecting that 9.5 out of 10 legacy.
Yeah. So the question for you, the player, is this. When a game's core is already that close to perfect, is the real challenge for a designer just protecting it, knowing when to stop? Or is it finding that one single impactful new thing, like diagonal building, that justifies your next 100 hours?
It's that tightrope walk. Innovate in all the right ways without wrecking what everyone already loves. Something to think about while you hope your 10-hour save file doesn't get bricked. Thanks for joining us.
We'll catch you next time.